Okay guys, so now we're looking at sine law versus cosine law. So when are you going to do which? So up here we have the sine law. When you know the measure of both an angle and its opposite side. And the cosine law, didn't type that in, is when you do not know the measure of both an angle and its opposite side. Now those are fairly generalistic statements. I prefer to take a look at examples and then decide on what we have. So let's look at this. Identify each of the following and identify whether you would use the sine law or cosine law to solve for x. So let's take a look. I want this, and I've got the angle opposite it. And I've got this side, but I don't know the angle opposite that one. I've got this side, but I don't know the angle opposite there. So I can't use the sine law here. I don't have another angle to do that, so I have to use the cosine law. Now, let's see what that meant up above. When you know the measure of both an angle and its opposite side. So I know an angle, but I don't know its opposite side. So that's what it's trying to say up here. It's a little simplistic. I would pay a little bit more attention to the holistic information given, but you know, it's not a bad rule of thumb if we're going to go by it. Let's look at the next one. I want a side. I know the angle opposite it. And I'm given another side. And I know the angle opposite it. So see how this diagram's different from this one? I got the circle and the line. I got the circle and the line, the circle and the line. So this one has two situations where I've got a side and an angle opposite it that I'm interested in. This is a contender for the sine law, definitely. And that's what I'm going to use it for. This one, sine law, or cosine law, it depends. Well, I've got a side and an angle opposite. I've got another side and an angle opposite it. I've got those two situations happening. Definitely a sine law candidate there. And this one, I've got a side and an angle opposite it, but I don't have a side and another angle. I don't have a side and another angle. I just have two sides. So this is a cosine law candidate. And again, up here, a general rule of thumb, when you do not know the measure of both an angle and its opposite side. So I don't know its angle and its opposite side. I do know an angle and its opposite side. I do know an angle and its opposite side. I do not know an angle and its opposite side. All right, so how are we going to put that into practice? Here's a question, number 2. Solve for x in the following. It's a non-right triangle. That's the first thing you always do. You always check out if it's going to be a right triangle or a non-right triangle. It's non-right triangle, so I cannot use SOHCAHTOA and I cannot use Pythagorean theorem. So I'm looking at the sine law or the cosine law. Got a side and an angle opposite it. Got a side and another angle opposite it. That is going to be the sine law. So let's play it out. It's going to be, I'm going to go after the side, so I'm going to put a side on top. And it's going to be the sine of 29 equals the side on top over the sine of 97. I'm going to cross multiply. It's going to be 300 sine of 29 over sine of 97. I'm going to use my calculator. Make sure I'm in degrees. 29 sine times 300 equals, divided by 97, sine equals, and I'm getting x equals 146.54, and that's in meters. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And that's probably a 1, 2, 3, maybe a 4-mark question. And you're just showing me 3 lines maximum. Had a discussion with someone from the studio audience. They go from here to here. I am going to ask that you show this intermediate step. It's part of grade 11. It's part of showing that you know what's going on. So please put that in. But I do understand that using a calculator you can go from here to here. But I would like to see this step in between. Okay, so the next one. Let's see what we got going on here. Again, it's a non-right triangle, so no SOHCAHTOA, no Pythagorean theorem. A side and an angle opposite, but no other angle here. So that's not a sine law. That's going to be a cosine law, which is going to set me up for this relationship. And again, I'm not memorizing a formula here. I'm not using a formula sheet, and I will not be giving these to you. You have to know them. So it's x squared equals the other two side squareds. Subtract 2, the other two sides, It helps if you say it out loud, to be honest with you. Cosine, because it's the cosine law. The angle opposite it. So again, it really helps to say it out loud. That would be my first step. My next one would be 71 cosine times 220 times 267 times 2 negative. So that whole thing is this number. I'm going to add to it 220 squared equals, I'm going to add to it 267 squared. I'm going to come up with this whole number, and I'm going to square root it. And hold on, I got different numbers last time. Let me try that one more time. Maybe I made a mistake. So I'm looking at 71 cosine times 220 times 267 times 2. I'm going to add that to 220. I'm going to add that to 267. I'm going to square root that. Oh, I made a mistake in my studio audience. I'll have to go back to them. So this will be plus or minus 285.38. We're going to omit the negative. And we're going to get x equals 285.34 meters. Okay, guys.